Nobody move, nobody breathe on it, nobody say anything or else the recording will stop. So let's just, keep our fingers crossed and hope for the best. Welcome everybody to the November Kansas City User Group meeting. I am Dale Ziegler. Along with me is my partner in crime, Mr. Jeff Berger. Jeff, go ahead and say
hello. Hi. It's good to be here.
I am a senior business analyst with 7 Summits, and Jeff is a much more important person than I am with his organization. You want to go ahead and describe it for us?
Sure. It's just a fancy title, the classic fancy title, but no more money. I'm the VP and Director of Salesforce Operations here at Academy Bank. I have a couple of folks on my team. I see one of them on the call. Hi, Matt. And we're doing fun things with Financial Services Cloud over here. So it's good to be here.
Cool. Very cool. And happy to hear that you've been able to get some people on your team. I know you were pushing pretty hard for that over the last few months, so that's awesome.
Thanks.
And Matt, Jeff is an awesome guy to work for. He's an awesome guy to work with and a good person to have in your network, as is everybody on this call. Just flipping through the names, we got a lot of good people and some good first timers. So always happy to be doing this. If you ever need to reach me or Jeff, this email address here goes to both of us, and we both respond fairly timely. It just depends on how many other inboxes we have open at the time. I'm up to 7. I don't know about you, Jeff, but I'm managing about 7. So apologies if it takes us a day or two to respond, but we do check this. It goes both to us, it goes to both of us. We are recording this meeting, so if you're not comfortable, if you're not allowed to, for whatever reason, please drop now. My hope is to have the recording uploaded to our YouTube channel by end of day today or tomorrow morning. We will also share this deck that we're presenting right here and anything that Rebecca or Todd may have to share as well. We'll have all of it out as soon as we can. And then also, as I said, down at the bottom, this is our first meeting on WebEx. I obviously am still fumbling my way through it. So if anything just goes south real quick, it's my fault. We did a couple of test runs. Maybe should have done a couple of more. We'll see. But if you can't be recorded, please jump off now and we'll share the recording as soon as possible. And, it's been a couple of years, but we all know the etiquette. If you're not talking, please just mute yourself. There will be opportunities later for open Q&A, open discussion, whatever. And then, of course, by all means, unmute if you're speaking. If you don't have a reason to be unmuted, please don't. I obviously need to update the bottom of this slide because, as I mentioned, we're no longer on Zoom. We're on WebEx. This is a networking, we're through a networking organization. This is a networking call. We're all friends. We're all comfortable. We're informal here. We just ask that, if, your kid hijacked your WebEx line, not that that hasn't happened to me before, with their gamer name or, God forbid, kids call each other by the names they were given, whatever, just please make sure that your name is actually showing as the participant on the meeting so that we know who's who. And when you speak up, we're not talking to, RoboCop 123. Thank you to our sponsor, Capstorm, Rebecca Gray, who leads the St. Louis user group, but actually lives in Florida. I just found out. So that's a pretty nice gig, I must say. Capstorm is sponsoring, and we will be raffling off some stuff here towards the end of her presentation. She'll be our first presenter before Todd. So thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Capstorm. We do have a Slack channel. If you are not already part of it and want to be, again, go ahead and shoot us a note at the Kansas City US user at trailblazercgl.com email, and we will get you added. We've had a good couple of good questions of how do I fix this or how do I do this, as well as just other resource sharing. So it's nice to see us getting some traffic on that. A few job postings as well, which is what we're all here for. We're all here to help each other. If you are new to the Salesforce community, it's more than just us here in the general user group. There's also a developer group, the Women in Tech group, nonprofit, and marketers. You can always go to this link to get more information about our group, as well as the rest of the more specialized groups. If you do fall into any of these categories, you are still in the right place. We consider ourselves all-inclusive. We're open to anybody and everybody because our perspectives, we all have different perspectives, different experiences that we can all learn from and share. So this is a safe place no matter your level of experience or your technical expertise or whatever it is that you're looking for.
And hey, Dale, I want to call out real quick. We still have the nonprofit group on there, and it's not like it went away in our hearts. But if you go to that link, bit.ly/KCTBC, you might notice that the nonprofit group is no longer listed, and that's part of Salesforce's sort of cleanup efforts, right? As groups become dormant, they fall off the page. And so I say that to say that when I go out to that link, and I look at the developer page, and I look at the Women in Tech page, and I look at the marketers page, we don't have any upcoming meetings in any of those groups, right? So I'd hate to see some of those groups fall by the wayside like the nonprofit group has. And so I'm just putting out a call. Anybody out there, not that you have to speak up right now, but if you're at all interested in getting involved and leading one of those groups, even, every couple of months, putting a meeting together in any of those specialty areas, please feel free to reach out. Dale and I can facilitate that because, we've got I know, and Dale knows, we have a pretty vibrant community here in Kansas City. I understand that now more than ever, as a co-leader, I understand how challenging it can be to put these meetings together and come up with regular content and all that good stuff. So I understand it's a lot of responsibility, but if you're the type of person who's interested in giving back and doing more with the community, please reach out.
Absolutely. Fully second that. That's a great call out. Thank you, Jeff. Upcoming meetings and other things. We do have our next meeting on the books for Tuesday, December 7th with Sonar, which they put out a really cool product that essentially just spits out the metadata of your org, which is great for anybody in any skill set, any level of expertise. It's the inner workings of how your org is actually set up. So they will be presenting, and rumor has it they're gonna be raffling off an iPad, like a real full-on, brand new, never been touched iPad. So you may want to join us for that one. Just saying. The speaker interest form is there. It's updated, I think, through June of next year for any months that people might be interested in presenting. We would love to have another presenter on the December meeting if you have anything teed up. Or anything for the first half of next year. It doesn't have to be anything super specialized or specific. If you want to show your company's use case of Salesforce, if you're building something cool in a dev org, if you just absolutely love where Flow is going now that it's going to be the home of all automation, if there's maybe a underappreciated or underrespected piece of functionality like reporting snapshots, I'm looking at you. If you have found a great use case for anything, please go fill out that speaker interest form. We would love to have you show it off because, again, this is a place where we all can learn from each other. I'm almost 11 years into the Salesforce ecosystem, and I'm still learning new things from our presenters, from our regional and from our regional friends and other groups. And it's just a great way to learn and share because you may be solving someone else's problem, whether you realize it or not. So please go fill out that form. And again, we're sharing the deck later. That link will be there. If you have any interest whatsoever, we would love to have you.
Yeah, if you've ever had to Google something for more than like 5 minutes to find an answer, that means other people out there are looking for answers about it, right? So
Yes.
If you've built something after Googling and having to come up with something on your own, that's exactly the kind of thing that we want to see because clearly there's a gap in our tribal knowledge. So please fill out that speaker interest form.
Absolutely. Well, and I mean, great use cases. I mean, our second presenter, Todd, presenting on his workings through getting MFA set up with SSO and like the Azure platform and whatever. That may sound very heavily technical, but admins, MFA it's here. Like, he went through all of it so that maybe you don't have to go through as much of it. So really excited to see what he has to present. And yeah, great use case right there. Do we have Brian or anybody else from any of the other KC groups on the call to say hi, what's up? I haven't looked at the participant list. That's okay. No problem at all.
Hi, Dale. Dale, it's Maggie. It's Maggie. I'm joining your meeting today from Atlanta, Georgia. I just want to tell everybody I miss Kansas City so much. I miss this users group. It's a fantastic group. The information that is shared is amazing. So I'm super stoked to be listening today. So I'll just shut up now and you can continue on.
Maggie, you know you never have to shut up unless we're still trying to get through the rest of this deck, in which case, please just mute yourself. No, I'm kidding. Oh my God, it was so nice to hear your voice and to have you on this call. That Maggie's one of the KC originals in the Salesforce ecosystem. So, God, it's good to have you on here. Miss you.
Thank you so much.
Do we have anybody else from outside of Kansas City that wants to speak up, say hi, anything like that?
Yeah, I wanted to introduce myself. I'm born and raised in Kansas City, but I'm out in Utah now, and I'm the developer group leader out here.
Awesome.
Back when I was in Kansas City, I had no idea what the user groups were, and so I'm just trying to catch up on what I missed out on.
Very cool, Jake. Welcome. What part of Kansas City were you in?
I'm from Peculiar.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. And you're in Utah now?
Yeah, I'm out here. I'm a architect for Salesforce now. Come a long way, but not unlike you mentioned, I'm still learning, and you know, there's a long way to go.
Awesome. Well, you can join us anytime. And thank you for joining. Thank you for speaking up. Love to hear it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Who else do we have from outside the metro?
Hey guys, this is Jeannie Koo, new to the KC Salesforce user group, and I live in the Bay Area, but I cover Kansas and Missouri, and I'm with a company called Own Backup. So happy to be here.
Own Backup. We are very familiar with them. Sponsored us a few times and some really good content information. Welcome aboard, Jeannie.
Thanks, and we'd be happy to sponsor another session down the road.
We will definitely hold you to that. Appreciate it. See a few other names. I don't. If you don't speak up, I'll call you out. But who else we have from out of town?
Hello, I'm Travis Haug from Manhattan, Kansas. Just new to the group and getting started with the Salesforce career.
Very cool. Have you connected with Melissa and the Manhattan group yet?
Yes, I have. They recommended that I pop on to the Kansas City group as well and learn from you guys just the same.
Awesome, awesome. Well, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Morning, Matt Bender, business analyst with DEG Digital, based out of Indianapolis, Indiana. And Travis, I'm going to put a little link and a shameless self-promotion. Next week, I'm actually speaking to the Indianapolis user group about job search tips and how to break into the Salesforce job ecosystem. So I'm putting that link in to register there. And as always, it's a pleasure to be here.
Love having you, Mr. Bender. I need to circle back with you on on our other side project. Love having you. I see.
Copy. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, very cool. That I know we're all on screen fatigue and Zoom fatigue and everything, but being able to meet virtually like this is awesome because we are able to open it up to more than just the metro group here. And I mean, Manhattan, yes, 2 hours west, but that's a 2-hour drive one way to go 2 hours the other way. Obviously, the Bay Area and a sponsor from Florida not having to fly in. We've had international attendees as well. We've had India, the Netherlands. I think we had Australia one time. We're trying to make this as fun and as engaging as we can, and so it is nice to be able to open it up beyond just you know, inside and outside the 435. So welcome aboard, everybody. Do we have any Salesforce employees on the call? I'm trying to remember if I actually sent the email to Salesforce saying we're having a meeting.
Gail, I think this might be the first time that you did. First time ever.
Okay. No problem.
They should know.
Next time.
They're on
all right.
What are they doing? Where are they at?
Right. We've had a few first-time attendees speak up. Do we have anybody else? First-timers?
Hey, hi, this is Gopinath. Yeah, it's for my first time here in Kansas City. I work back in India and I'm here for my master's. So just join in the group. Thank you.
Very cool. Who are you getting your master's through?
In computer science from University of Central Missouri.
Very good. Good luck.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm a first-time attendee also, Amy Crumless. I work for the American Red Cross. I actually work out of headquarters in Washington, D.C. I'm the Salesforce admin for our international department and relocated to Missouri last summer from the Bay Area and just excited to get involved with the music group.
Very cool. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
What part specifically?
What part of Missouri?
Yeah.
I'm up in Liberty. I mean, it's technically Kansas City, but I'm closer to Liberty.
Awesome.
Another first-time attendee, I'm Josh Eliason with Yellow Crate.
Ah, my old stomping ground. Very nice. Many moons ago, I was at Yellow before Salesforce. So very nice. I may have to catch up with you offline.
All right.
I'm a first-time attendee. My name's Gretchen Gaither. I just recently got my Salesforce admin certification. I work with GEHA. I'm technically a junior Salesforce admin right now, but hopefully within the next year that'll get promoted up to Salesforce admin since I have my certification now. So happy to be here.
Very cool. Congratulations. And
Thank
this
you.
group would love to see you move on past junior. So yeah, whatever we can do.
Me too.
So that's a nice.
I want to call out Kelly because I see Kelly on the call. I worked with Kelly in the past, and it's not technically her first meeting, but I think it's technically her first meeting as a Salesforce, technically within the Salesforce ecosystem, as a true Salesforce. Is it an admin title? Is it a BA title, Kelly?
Hey, Jeff. No, I'm actually sales operations, but it's kind of hybrid, like Salesforce administrator, operations manager. So
we've all been there.
Yeah, it's a little bit of everything. So I just started, I've actually been there about a month now. They're still using Salesforce Classic, which is kind of terrifying. And there isn't a strong desire to change, which is shocking.
They don't know what they're missing.
I know, it's sad.
So show them what they're missing.
Kelly. It's great to see you taking on this new role, and there are lots of folks on this call who can provide some expertise and insight on that classic migration. So definitely,
it's been fun. Like I didn't ever work in classic, so I feel like I'm kind of relearning stuff. So it's interesting.
Sorry to call you out, but I saw your name and I had to say hi.
Hi.
Love it. So good segue into, the rest of my most favorite slide in the whole deck every single time. What new roles, jobs, job openings, certifications, pass or fail, studying for, whatever. Like let's throw some celebrations out here.
I passed my advanced admin cert about a week or so ago.
Woohoo! Very
But
nice. Good job, Joanne. So what's next?
We have Pardot, so I'm going to pick up the Pardot certification. It won't take that long, so that's the next one.
Very cool. Good luck.
Thanks.
I finally got around to getting my certification. I got it about a month ago. My admin certification.
Very cool. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just cleared my PD2 certification a month ago.
PD, very nice. Very, very nice. I failed the UX.
That's an accomplishment. We celebrate those.
How was that, Dale? A lot of like app builder stuff, a lot of component stuff, design system. What is it?
My chunks that that tanked me were the SLDS and testing methodology. But
stuff, yeah, that's silly.
Right, but the places that like the areas where I was like high 70s, low 80s were the very human centric. Like put yourself in the shoes as a consumer, because we are all consumers as people. And so a lot of the questions were geared towards what is going to give the best user experience. So, like I said, hoping by the end of calendar year, I'll get it. There's I think a 44-hour trail mix out there that I probably won't get all 44 hours done, but I'm definitely going to focus on SLDS and testing. Just fill in the gaps there. We have, let's see in the chat, Mary just passed my admin cert, studying for nonprofit cloud consultant. Awesome. Travis passed admin cert, was recently selected for the Deloitte Consulting Select program. Very cool.
Hey, this is Eric Chambers with Torrent Consulting.
Hello,
and
Eric.
We've got a number of job openings for analysts and developers and architects right now. It is in the new age 100% remote, but we also have an office here in Kansas City. So if you miss working with people face to face, you can come into the office. We have breakfast provided every day and snacks in the afternoon. So it's fun. I'll put a link to the job page in the chat.
Awesome. Thank you. At the very top of the chat, we had creative planning will be looking for an admin role. So we'll share that link out as well. Yeah. And if there's any others that, if you don't want to go off mute, totally fine. But if you have links, please share them in the chat and we'll load them to the back of the slide deck when we share it out later. So thank you, everybody. And congratulations to those who have passed. Good luck to those who are studying for something. And if you have failed, this is probably, I hope, a safe place because we're all here to help each other again. A failed test is just the one that comes before the passed test. So we've all been there. All right, I'm going to cruise through the rest of this so that we can get to the stars of the show. Community resources and events. MVP nominations just opened up, Thursday? They're open until December 3rd. If you know someone who loves to give to the community and is making a positive impact to those in the Salesforce ecosystem through technical expertise or getting people connected or just any of the above, go check out the Salesforce blog and very seriously consider nominating them. The way it'll then work is sometime in January or February, as an MVP, I'll then get to be part of the voting process based on the feedback that you provide. So if we don't know who someone is, but we read up on their credentials based on what you submitted, there's a very good chance they could be nominated into the MVP program. So definitely give that a look. MVP office hours is an open call twice a month, first and third Friday of the month. Our next one is next Friday. Bring any question you may have, whether it's like, I cannot get this custom metadata type to work with my process builder because of a managed package, Jeff, or something more big picture of, I saw in the release notes that ABC, whatever, any of it is fair game. So please consider signing up for MVP office hours. I love that Kansas City, it makes up probably a good 35 to 40% of the office hours calls every time between Todd and Mike and Daniel. Like, love seeing how strong we are on that. So definitely consider signing up. Even if you don't have anything to ask, just listen, because again, to Jeff's point earlier, someone may have already done the 5 to 10 minutes of Googling for you and you didn't even realize it. So it's just a great call to come in and hopefully solve some problems, get some problems solved, and anywhere in between. World Tour Salesforce events, that link is there. Trailhead Live, love that because, and the webinars links, because they give anything upcoming, but if you can't catch anything live, they have the recordings there as well and a pretty robust filtering mechanism as well. So if you're looking for a particular session on Flow or Pardot or anything like that, you can always filter for it and still go catch the recording or sign up for a future live webinar. Community-based events, which is those of us in the community putting on bigger events like mini Dreamforces, those are starting to slowly move back to in-person, so go check those out. Certification prep weeks, Daniel Karendian, it's just so much easier to just say go follow her because she puts out really timely and frequent posts on when sessions will be, or certification vouchers, or anything that may help you in your certification journey. Mentorship, I can't speak highly enough about it. Whether you want to be a mentor and give back, if you're a mentee looking for someone to mentor you, go do that now. Salesforce has a really good algorithm to pair people together really well based on sex, age, race, gender, experience, any number of factors. So if you're looking to give back or to receive some guidance, please go do it. I absolutely love it. I don't think Idea Exchange Prioritization is currently active, but that blog always is for when you can actually help shape the future of the Salesforce roadmap. Please don't bring any negativity. They get enough of it as it is. They are a company of humans. They are trying to do the best they can. So if your idea doesn't get prioritized, don't get mad at them. They really are trying, or there's a reason why they can't deliver it yesterday. But what you can do is bring your thought and your ideas to help shape where things go, and they will do the best they can. Certification days, you can go click on the link up there at the top and it'll give you all the information. Not much coming in the next couple of months, at least for US based. I did see quite a few based out of London, but they're now 6 hours ahead of us, starting at 9 in the morning their time. So, you know, if you're a night owl and you want to learn at 3 in the morning, by all means, go check out that link and learn some Salesforce at 3 in the morning. I applaud you for it. But not much either Eastern, Central, Mountain, or Pacific time based. But that's at least what I was able to go grab, including advanced admin this Thursday, if you're able to. And again, go follow Danielle. And usually at the end of the certification day sessions, I think they give you vouchers for, you know, like 20-40% off the exam registration cost. So it definitely has a good reward at the end of it. Winter 22, we're all in the thick of it, so you can check out these links if you need to, but it's been 5-6 weeks, I think, since we all got flipped over to production. And then, of course, December 3rd, do not lose your Platform App Builder cert, your PD1 cert, or Marketing Cloud cert if you don't go do the renewal. December 3rd is the absolute deadline. If you don't take the renewal on Trailhead by that, sorry, that cert is gone. So don't lose those hard-earned certifications. To my knowledge, the admin, which comes up in April, these should all be live now, so just go do it. There's no reason not to. And then maybe these are up, I don't know, but it's just a good habit to just check Trailhead, check, verify your status. You'll get an email that says if you're current or if you have a renewal exam coming up, but most definitely you got like 3-4 weeks left on this, so go do it. All right, the stars of the show. Rebecca Gray from Capstorm will be presenting on Salesforce Data Management, and then we'll hand it over to Todd Bachamp from Walsworth and his exploits through enabling MFA with Azure, single sign-on, technical this, technical that, but everybody needs to see it because it really is super important and it does apply to everyone. So with that, I am going to shut up, stop sharing, and let Rebecca take it from here.
Hi, hello everyone. So I'm Rebecca with Capstorm. Thank you, Dale. I do work for Capstorm in customer success. I also lead the St. Louis Salesforce user group. So if you're a Kansas Cityan, only 4 hours away, and we are doing a in-person meeting on December 3rd. I just dropped that in the chat window. We are doing an Ask an Expert roundtable. We have Eric Dreschfield coming, a Salesforce MVP. You may have heard of him. I have several experts in the community that are local to St. Louis that will be having booths. So if you go on there and you see a topic you want to learn about, we'd love to have you. We are going to mask, hopefully keep everyone fairly comfortable. So enough on that. So I'm going to present a bit about my company, Capstorm. We're a Salesforce data management company. Put up some slides, that run through a demo. I know we don't have a lot of time, but we are also going to play a game. So I love making these user group events interactive and fun because I'm sure you don't want to listen to me talk for 20 minutes straight and just listen to me talk. So let's see, Dale or Jeff, you want to be a volunteer, and then I'll tell you what you're volunteering for after you volunteer.
Well, who could pass up that opportunity?
All right, Dale. So here's how this game works. So everybody who's on this call will get entered in a drawing for $100 to the Salesforce swag store. Just a gift certificate. I email it out after the meeting. If you ask a question, you automatically get a second entry. So you can ask as many questions as you want. You get an entry per question. Obviously has to be somewhat on topic, not like, hey, Rebecca, have you been to Seaside recently? I know you live in Florida. So somewhat on topic. If you ask a question, especially if it's technical, if you stump me, developer groups love doing this, then you get 5 points. So Dale, if you can kind of keep track of points, I'll grab everybody's first name off of the participant list, but just make a note, give Aaron 2 more or something. Chat that to me after I'm done talking, and then I'll just drop it in a random generator. We can watch it spin around and announce a winner.
We can do that.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's dive in. And Dale, I believe I have about 20 minutes. Is that right?
20, 25, yeah.
20, 25. All right. Well, I do love to talk. So if I start talking too much, move this up here, let me know, and I'll just stop talking. So Capstorm is a Salesforce data management company. I support customer success, which means I do a lot of our pre-sales architecture conversations. My day-to-day is on demos with customers, talking about business problems and matching up what we do to the actual reality of Salesforce. And we've been doing this a while. So Capstorm's been on the App Exchange since 2011, and we are a Salesforce-only data management company. What that means is we support Salesforce data autonomy. I know autonomy is an old word, kind of actually a pretty old school word, not used as much today, but that means the ability to govern yourself or your own affairs. So what Capstorm does is we help our customers gain control and utilization over their Salesforce data. I'll flip the architecture and explain what that actually practically means in a second. But a couple of the things our customers do with that are Salesforce business continuity or disaster recovery. I have an 80+ developer group for a big credit card company, and they're doing sandbox seeding every day. Lots and lots and lots of sandboxes. Integrating your Salesforce data into your data fabric. So getting Salesforce data into your global company's data strategy in near real time, or even getting that data to Tableau. And what I call the from here being Salesforce spreadsheet, random database to Salesforce. So the from here to Salesforce data migration. I'm going to skip to architecture, and I am going to pause and take a glass of water and drink it. So if you have any questions, now would be a great time to ask one and get an extra point. Nope. All right. No extra points. I'll keep going.
Wow.
I know. Brutal, tough crowd today.
That's it out.
All right, so here's what, I know I did a lot of talking, but here's what this actually means. Capstorm has software that incrementally enables our customers to move data from Salesforce to a relational database that they own. This is incremental replication of your Salesforce data, your Salesforce metadata, and your structure, so that you then have a database either on-prem or in your cloud, say in GCP, in Azure, or in AWS, that mirrors Salesforce at all times. Because it's a mirror image of Salesforce, you can use it for business continuity or analytics. I'm sure nobody on this call has ever wanted to write a report in the report writer and found out they couldn't. Slightly sarcastic, I'm sure you probably have. But when your data is in your own database, you can ask and report on anything you want. A lot of my customers are doing this to get near real-time data from Salesforce to Tableau without query limitations or even creating a view on top of that database. They're exposing exactly the data that they want without exposing all of their data. Of course, Capstorm also goes the other direction. So going from a database back to Salesforce, moving records along with your corresponding record relationships and data hierarchies. Now there has to be a question somewhere. So I'm going to count to 10 in my head. So I'm going to pause for a second. Okay.
Wow, quiet group today.
I know. That's okay. I don't like coming on these and being like the typical sales AE person, because this is really about, here's something that we do. Is it something that would help you? So thinking about the DR, business continuity, the biggest thing is getting your Salesforce data out of Salesforce in a way that you can actually use the data. And how you do this, fairly simple. This software application, it was built for engineers by engineers. That's why if you look at our UI, looks like it could have been built a little while ago. We're really data heavy and focused on the really complex limitations of Salesforce, like getting your rich text images out of Salesforce, replicating your big objects, replicating your custom big objects. But how you do this is download and unzip, put in some credentials, so I'm connecting to Salesforce, and then connect to an empty database schema. Now, since we're doing a demo, I'm just going to Postgres on my local machine. But of course, we support Oracle, SQL Server, MySQL, and even some of those columnar-based databases like Snowflake, Redshift, BigQuery. From here, I can just say, go, and I'm going to replicate my Salesforce org down to my database. Depending on my internet connection, it might take it a second. Come on, Salesforce. Oh, look at that. Looks like my Salesforce connection is not working today. Got to happen live, right? It wouldn't happen if it didn't happen live.
It just feels like being stubborn.
Oh, it does. Well, for some reason, the instance my dev org is hosted on sometimes has connection issues. So when I'm trying to get to Salesforce, sometimes I'll have a little blip in my connection. Yep. If I see failed to send request, that means Salesforce did not accept my connection request. Probably nothing you've had happen before, but of course it's going to happen live because that's when things happen. On extraction, what's key is that it's fully incremental and you control it. So you own what you replicate, how often you replicate it, how long you retain things like your metadata version history. If you want to do some field history tracking on top of what Salesforce provides, so on and so forth. Now, I'm going to see if Restore wants to connect to the internet, wants to connect to Salesforce. I'm very much hoping so. We'll just test it live here. Connecting. Woohoo! Going. All right. Any questions for me on what we just did, which was attempt to extract from Salesforce into a relational database that typically works if I can connect to Salesforce?
I don't have a question, but I love how seamlessly you handled that interruption, because I do demos all the time and it invariably happens when you're going live. So good job.
Somebody give Sandy a point. Thank you very much.
Yep. On it.
Awesome. Hey, that is the fun of live. I hate recorded demos. It's only a demo if it's like legit, you know, potential for failure. So go one direction, get data out of Salesforce. Second step is to go the other direction. Take data from a database and then push it up to Salesforce, reconnecting my records, reconnecting all those record relationships. I am going to start with a data set. Now, I'm not doing a production or recovery operation, so I'm not worried about doing a point in time. I'm not going to recover anything deleted. I'm just going to go directly down to the database. And Sandy, since you talked, you want to be brave and tell me what your favorite object is? Any object will do? Standard. I don't have that many custom.
I don't have a favorite object.
Not a favorite. Okay.
I mean, we deal with accounts and contacts all the time, so I mean, we're there.
All right, well, we'll pick on accounts then. I did have someone tell me once they wanted to run one off territory on a demo, on a live demo in front of like 50 people. And I was like, oh my goodness, I hope I actually have something built into my org, because you never know on your little demo org. All right, let's pick some accounts. So I have to decide which accounts I want to flow up to Salesforce. So we're going to run this like we are taking a backup of our production org and pushing it into a Salesforce sandbox. So say a dev sandbox, lots of metadata, no data. So for practical purposes, like building or testing, I can't actually validate what the user would view of my solution because I don't have any data to build on. We're going to fix that by actually pushing a set of our data from prod into that lower environment. Let's see, I don't want all data because I know that's not going to fit in my lower environment. I could pull a filter. Say I want to do accounts with a specific record type that have been modified in a specific time range, or an ID, but I think I'm going to write random. Because goodness knows I can't write SQL. All right, I want a random 100 account records. Click on those reference rules here. So I know I'm going to a dev org, there's no data. So if I have an account that has a parent, I'm going to go ahead and have that parent record created as well. And I want all my fields. But I do not want to expose sensitive data. So I'm going to go into my field obfuscation, and I know there's not too much in accounts, but I'm just going to take account and I'm going to make it a random account name. Might get some interesting names that way. But I can mask any of my field data that I want to. Any questions so far before we move to the fun step?
So just so I understand, you're going from production down to a sandbox with this.
Great question, Dale. So what I'm doing is I'm going to go from, I've gone from, if my demo would have worked, I would have gone from production to a database. And now I'm going to go from a database back to Salesforce.
Gotcha.
Yep, so I'm going to go from a replica of my production org. Now, it could be a replica of the Sandbox org. It doesn't really matter as long as it's a replica of some Salesforce schema. And then I'm going to push data back up to Salesforce, but I'm going to push a data set that's not simple. So I have accounts. And Dale, you should give yourself a point because you did ask a question. Accounts are great, but accounts aren't very helpful unless I have some stuff that's related. So I want the related cases. I want the related assets. Maybe I want the asset relationships, a couple of children. I can build out this relationship hierarchy as many levels as I want. Or since, frankly, I don't know everything that hangs underneath an account from my particular org, I'm going to go and click select all. I want all levels of relationship. Just have them picked up. So what I'm doing is I'm picking up every level of relationship that's sitting underneath my account. You'll notice, for example, I'm not doing all my assets. I'm just doing the ones that are referenced. Same thing for my attachments. But I can go through here and I can limit this data set a bit more. Maybe I want accounts that were modified during a specific period from a specific record type. I want related cases, but I only want 3 of them, and I only want recent cases or closed cases. I can slice and dice this data any way that I want until I get a targeted data set that matches what I want to have in my sandbox for my training or for my development work.
Did I miss it, or can you go up to a parent?
Go to a parent. So let's say I was starting with asset, because I know that's a child. I can go up 2 different ways. One is I can go via my reference fields. So if I was starting with asset and I had accounts obviously related there, I could say when you're inserting, say, 50 random assets, go ahead and create the parent account if it doesn't exist. So I can go up that direction. Then I can go anywhere in my relationship hierarchy on my related list. So lookup fields and related lists. Did that answer your question?
Yep, thanks.
Awesome. And I didn't catch your name, but you definitely deserve a point. So leave that one on Dale.
We got Nick a point already.
Nick gets a point. Awesome. Now, I'm not limited to just one hierarchy either. So if I'm doing a project, I can say, let's see what's not included. I'm going to find some object not in there. I was going to say holiday, but that's kind of silly. Maybe I want to restore all of my, I don't know, price book entries, products. There we go, product. Maybe as a part of this, I want to bring in products. So I just click on another object. Maybe I want all of them and all their related lists too. This is used as an application a lot for doing Salesforce implementation, org-to-org migration, and of course, what we're doing today, seeding a sandbox with a rich set of testing data. And if anyone wants an extra point, you can guess how many steps this would take you on a more manual approach. See if you're right. 2 points if you're right, 1 point if you guess. That's an easy one. No guesses?
95.
You said 95?
Sure.
I might be kind of close. Let's see. I'm going to guess 73. Oh, 1 point for guessing, though. I only know that because I know how many objects are in my database. All right, 73 steps, and hope to goodness you do them right, because you have to know what depends on what to build out this whole hierarchy. But the Capstorm approach is to go ahead and go to restore and just say start. And I'm
So since this is going to a sandbox, is there a way to actually take, say, social security numbers and obfuscate them, or put random non-repeating numbers in there?
Oh, absolutely. Yep. I can flip back to that. I breezed by obfuscation really quickly. So great question, Keith. Once this finishes, we'll pop on back and do it. And then I did miss one really, really important step, which anyone in this room's org would have to consider. So give you a point if anyone thinks of that too. There we go. Now we're done. Let's get back to your question, Keith. So if I want to go back, say I've even done this restore. I've go on, I've pushed a bunch of data, and I thought, oh my goodness, I have contacts, and they have sensitive data, and I just push that to my lower environment. I need to mask it. I could grab my contact object, grab my fields, click on field obfuscation, find whatever sensitive, maybe emails. I don't think I have social security numbers in here, but find some emails and do some, let's just do email scrambling. Make it look like an email address, but let's have some random digits. That way I have no risk of, say, accidentally emailing all of my customers because I put emails into my Sandbox environment. And I can push those updates too. Answer your question, Keith?
Yes, it did. Thanks.
Awesome. Has anyone guessed what I missed? We were talking about it right at the beginning of the call too.
Are you considering the size of the lower dev environment at all?
Awesome question. I can estimate the size of my data prior to pushing it. Now, I'm not estimating the size of it on the front end where I'm saying, hey, you have this much space. But before I say push data, I can estimate the size. Great question, though.
Is formatting an issue?
Is formatting an issue? Do you mean you mean having your schemas match between the two locations? What do you
Yes.
mean?
That's it.
Yeah. So if I have changed, if I'm say I'm doing a migration and I've backed up data from one org and I want to push it to a different org, of course I have to have somewhat similar schemas because I cannot push data to a field that doesn't exist. So if I am trying to do something like that, then I would have to push the metadata first and then push the data. Did that answer your question, or is it more related to something like data that I put in my org at time A that is now impossible at time B because I've built some sort of validation rule that said, don't let that be created?
No, it was more the schema that you answered. Thank you, though.
Okay. The big thing that I missed is validation. Triggers, workflows, process builders, duplicate rules, required fields that you will have to decide whether you want to turn off as a part of your restore process or not. So if you want to, I can go in and enable automatic validation rule management, or I can, of course, edit the validation rules that are selected. So I could go in there, determine what should be turned on, what should be turned off before I push any data. And of course, I'm taking a lot of time to build this out. So I can save and reuse my configuration as many times as I want. Say I'm going to see the sandbox every other week. Can use the same configuration, rinse and repeat. You know, about out of time. It's been a lot of talking really fast. Any additional questions, or anyone want to enter in this drawing last minute?
Hello.
Hey,
Yeah.
David.
Is there any limit on the number of record we can push?
No, none at all. One of my customers did a 6 terabyte Salesforce migration about a year ago. So there's no limitation on the amount of data. And actually, as a company, we don't see any of it. Our solutions live on our customers' machines. So none of their data flows through our server at all. Did that answer your question, Navin?
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I'm having one more question here. Is this disable of validation rule triggers is the object specific? Can we specify what objects can be disabled specifically?
Absolutely. So these particular validation rules are tied to opportunity. So now the one thing to be aware of is if you do this, of course, if you disable a validation rule, say in production, you are disabling it for your entire org. Now there's some workarounds for that, of course, but you want to make sure if you're ever touching production, you're just doing that in an off hour for this particular exercise. But yes, object by object validation rules. It doesn't have to be global. Automatic makes a lot of sense for sandboxes. For a production scenario, it's typically specific automation.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Great question. Thanks for asking it.
I'll probably ask the question that others might be thinking it is, what's the pricing ish?
Yeah, great question, Dale. So we're a bit of an oddball in that world. We are not priced per user. So our pricing is not tied to your number of Salesforce users, nor does it tie to your data size. Frankly, we don't see it because we have no access to your Salesforce data. That's why we play very heavily in the pharma and the financial services arenas. The raw, what does it cost, is it starts around $10,000 annually. And there's some additional discounting for nonprofits. But a lot of it ties to what do you want to be able to do? Do you want to be able to do DR, testing it with a sandbox, or do you want to do entire org data enablement where I'm doing data into my data fabric, I'm doing DevOps seeding for 80 developers? Well, those with 80 developers that are doing 100 sandboxes a month, they pay a little bit more money than some of my smaller nonprofits that are doing a DR scenario testing every other month.
Joanne's follow-up in the chat, is pricing based on company size, capability, or both?
Yeah, pricing is based on capability. So it's all based on what the company wants to do. So great question.
And then also, with this being a local application, how does it play on a PC versus a Mac versus, let's say, like a Linux machine? Like, what are some of the system requirements?
Yeah, in terms of operating system, it's operating system agnostic. So you can run on Windows, Mac, or Linux. It is a fairly low load because what it is doing on a core level is reading from Salesforce over your standard APIs and writing to your database. The machine that you're running it on, the only space capabilities you'll want to consider are the size of your biggest attachment, because your attachments are temporarily stored while they're being written to the database. One of my developers did put it on a Raspberry Pi once just to see if he could, and he successfully did. So can run in a pretty small environment. The one thing that's really critical though is database and software need to be fairly close together. So if you're wanting to say host your database in AWS, well, you're going to want to run software within AWS as well, because otherwise you're going to be going from Salesforce to your laptop to AWS, sending data all over the place. Just takes more time than sending data closer together.
Gotcha.
Did I answer your question, Dale?
Yeah, it does. And then one more, and then I'll shut up and let others jump in. Are you dependent at all on the 3x per year release cycle for Salesforce? And if so, what does that look like from an application update standpoint since it is local?
Yeah, so we release updates quarterly to correspond with Salesforce's release. Typically, our newest release will come out the week after the latest release goes GA, but all releases are backwards compatible and they're not forced. So we encourage customers to update. For example, this version I'm running on Salesforce API version 52. I still have customers that are running on 37, 38, 48, but new Salesforce features that came out on 52 aren't going to be able to be pulled down to the database if you're running on an older version. So actually, that's part of my job that I love. So I pull a list of customers that are running on older versions and I start calling them saying, come on, let's upgrade. How can I help you? It's included in your pricing, but how can I help you get up to speed to make sure that you're actually pulling out of Salesforce everything that you want?
Gotcha. Okay. And then another one, got a couple more in the chat. So going back to the question, like for Macs specifically, do you need to be on the most recent version of operating systems? So like Joanne, her company is choosing not to upgrade to Big Sur, for example.
No, you're not required to be on the most recent operating system of Salesforce, no.
Okay. And then Harsh asking, does it work on Scratch orgs or does it have to be environment specific?
Scratch orgs are so fun. That's actually how we do a lot of our automated testing internally. So our CI/CD process works with Scratch orgs and Jenkins. So we have scripts that what they will actually do is see if the Scratch org is still alive, because they die after 7 days. If it's not, recreate it, push the metadata, push the data, and spin up the Scratch org. So we use Scratch orgs internally with our software every single day. So does it work? Absolutely. We work with Scratch orgs, Dev orgs, Dev Pro, partial copies, full copies, and prod. So all kinds of Salesforce environments. Great question.
Free trials?
Cool. All right. Is there a free trial? Absolutely. So we set up a free trial. Of course, there's some qualification that makes sense. Sales wants to make sure that it's going to turn into a deal if they get to a free trial. But yeah, absolutely. Typically, free trial is set you up with this for a sandbox for a week or two. Let's play around with it in your own environment. Make sure it works for you. Yep.
Does anybody else have any other questions? Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Rebecca. That is an awesome looking application that, again, it's one of those nuggets that I think a lot of people, especially in the admin space, probably weren't aware was out there. And now it's like why didn't I have that yesterday?
Well, if you do want to have it as of yesterday, if you contact me, I'll put my email address in here. Because I am not on our sales team, I will tell you all kinds of information. And if it's something that you really, really like, I'll connect you with one of our AEs. So no pressure. I love talking the tech. Dale, are you going to send me a list of who should get extra points so I can get that drawing started?
So I shared a G sheet out of our user group email to your Capstorm.
Got it. Awesome.
And it lists everybody who had opted in. I need to add the email addresses, but also who asked number of questions. So Jeff and I've been working on that this whole time for you.
Awesome. So what I will do is I'm going to get it prepped up while we have the next presenter. If you don't mind, when you give me 30 seconds at the end, I'll click the wheel. We can cheer for it live on who the winner is.
We'll do it live.
We'll do it live. Awesome. And then I won't ask for people's even work email addresses or anything like that. I'll take them if you got them and give them to me.
Yeah. So what we do, I don't know if it's against the rules or not. User group leader to user group leader, but if somebody wants to opt in to a raffle, it's in exchange for the email address. So that's what I put in the sheet for you.
Perfect. So I never even asked for them. I only asked for the winner, but I'll take it. Awesome. All right. Well, I'll get that all queued up, and I don't know who's going next, but I'll stop talking.
You are good. Thank you so much, Rebecca. And we would love to have you drop in again in the future. So feel free to stay, obviously. But great stuff. We'd love to have you anytime. So
I'm staying. We have to announce this winner.
Well, yeah, you got to stay to announce the winner. Exactly.
Exactly.
All right. So while you are running through that, I'm going to bring in Mr. Bachamp, Todd Bachamp with Walsworth. Recently had a pretty big enigma to have to work through with MFA, Multi-Factor Authentication. You may have seen things through release notes, through Salesforce blogs, through just increased security in general in this world. Your own personal accounts like Google and things like that. Everything is going to MFA. So Todd recently had to work through that and with single sign-on at his organization. And so he is here to help you hopefully not have to go through nearly as many steps or pain points as he may have had to. So Todd, we see your presentation. Have at it, sir.
That's good that you see that. Thank you for having me today, Dale. Just kind of a little background. Walsworth Publishing Company is one of the top 4 yearbook publishers in the U.S. We produce over 4,000 yearbooks a year, and we are one of the top 35 commercial printers in the U.S. also. So 7 locations across the U.S. I am a solo admin. So I've been learning this and relying on Dale and Jeff and a few other people. So I appreciate this community and everything you do. So my goal today is to try to help relieve some pain points that you don't have to experience when you go through this. So as a solo admin, I try to stay ahead of the curve a little bit. If I know something's going to be implemented and required at a certain release, I try to get ahead of that in my sandboxes because I'd rather deal with it ahead of time than to deal with it in production. So when we came live almost 3 years ago, we started out with SSO. So that was already configured in this environment. So to start out with, just a little note, this works in my org. It may not work in yours. So I just ask you to please test it and don't forget to test the mobile. Let's see if we can get to the... Trying to get it to move, Dale. It's not moving. There we go. So the objective was to meet the MFA requirement that's coming on February 1st of next year. We had to do it with SSO and Azure. Wanted to require that the users go through Salesforce SSO only, and then allow the admins to get in without SSO, just in case something happens and we need to reconfigure and bring everybody up with a direct login. Right now, none of our users have direct login. They have to go through SSO because they were never set up with a direct login password. So the 2 assumptions I went in with is we already had SSO running with delegated authentication, and the Azure team set up the SSO at that level. So I didn't have to do that in Salesforce. We are running a My Domain Walsworth Pub in production. Salesforce Edge is enabled. I went ahead and enabled that. It's not being forced upon us, but we're nationwide, so I was hoping to improve performance just a little bit. One caveat about Salesforce Edge is it cannot be disabled once you enable it. You have to go through support to disable it. So I actually had to do that in my Sandbox because something went wrong and it corrupted itself. So I ended up at the R&D level to get that corrected. We're also using enhanced domains. Again, like I said, I'm trying to get ahead of the curve here. This will be enforced in summer 21. They will be turning on enhanced domains for everyone from the last information I saw just today. So concerning MFA, we keep hearing that it's coming February 1st. So I found this to be an interesting post. Yes, it's coming February 1st, but Salesforce is really not going to be enforcing it technically at this point. They're working on that, but it won't quite be there. But it is required under our agreements with them. So all of the information I'm showing you can be found out in the MFA FAQ, and there's a link for that right at the bottom of this slide. And there's also some links within this information as you can see it. I'm not going to sit here and read all of this to you, and I'll include this deck in an email to Dale so you can send it out with your deck. So when I started out, I've got no SSO in my Sandbox. So I played around with direct logins and got things working over there. But then I had to go straight into production without fully testing it. We usually know how that goes, and it did. My first configuration resulted in a 2-day service degradation in our production org. So we have a process where we use Visualforce to generate PDFs. These when we capture the signatures electronically on certain documents, when everything's complete, we automatically email those PDFs to the customer. And we were emailing blank files. We also have an embedded page on one of our page layouts because we needed more than 2 columns. Just a requirement I couldn't get around. And it stopped performing like it should. And all of our custom buttons stopped triggering flows like they should have. So 2 days with support, and I finally found the issues. So the first known issue there, and you're going to see high assurance referenced a lot in the MFA documents because that's how they tell you to implement MFA. Just turn on high assurance on your user profiles. Well, this known issue only addresses the Salesforce mobile app, but it also affected a few other things. In fact, if you go out and search for high assurance with Salesforce, you'll get screen after screen after screen of issues is what I learned. So for our org, I cannot turn that on. The other issue is in the second one there, that the high assurance stops the generation of PDF with Apex code. So there's a second reason I can never turn that on in my org. So second attempt, I had to sit back and think for a little bit. So I actually cloned a user profile, one of them that we use. And then the network group created me a test user in Azure, single sign-on. And then I hooked everything up through Salesforce. So I had a test user in its own profile, basically isolated from everything else. Still in my production org, but it was still isolated. So I could play with that profile and change things on it. And I finally got it to work. So what was the solution? I'm going to go through a lot of slides here because Rebecca, yeah, I know you'd had your issues with your live demo also, and plus this is set up in my production org, so I didn't want to be changing settings out there today. One of the first things I had to go change is on the map My Domain, and everything you see here is under the settings. So My Domain policies, login policy. I don't want any of my users to be able to log in through the standard login.salesforce.com. So that means they'd have a direct login and could bypass MFA at this point. So I prevent that. So once you set up My Domain and you set up your SSO, we named ours Azure Sso, you'll see the second entry. Login form is always there. That's the standard Salesforce login page. So what I've done here is I've unchecked that, and I'm allowing only single sign-on logins. Now here's where we get into the session settings. So multi-factor authentication needs to be under high assurance, and your SSO needs to be there. There's certain functions within Salesforce that require high assurance. Please note the bottom there, the message, the note, I guess I should say. And that's just kind of a standard thing for implementing MFA. I didn't have to do this because it was already configured by the consultants that helped set up our org, but Salesforce support must enable delegated authentication for this configuration of SSO to work. So that was already done, but I did come in here and check the disable login with Salesforce credentials. So I'm not even showing them the login page, and even if they happen to get there, they're not going to be able to log in this way. Now here comes the fun part. Profile system permissions. I know more about these than I ever thought I was going to learn in my life. So there's a setting called Is Single Sign-On Enabled? It needs to be unchecked for system administrator profiles and API only profiles. So because API is not going to have any way to do multi-factor authentication, but it's checked for all of my user login profiles. On the MFA authentication, and this is for user interface logins, it is checked for system administrators because I can't update the standard system administrator profile. I did this through a permission set. But this is then unchecked for all other profiles. And I need to mention, when I say all other profiles, all of our profiles we use are custom, so I can do anything I want to them. So on more session settings, security level required login, there's where they come into these two choices, none or high assurance. This is where I'm saying don't set it to high assurance, regardless of what you read. At least this was true for my org. It's those two known issues I pointed out, plus all of the others. And I'll admit, I did not read all of them. I just saw the list and list and list of them. So for integration users, so this is your user IDs that you're using to move data between systems. You need to check the API only user. Hopefully, many of you, along with myself, we get monthly optimizer reports. One of the things on that report is whether or not people are logging in using MFA. I actually had an integration user that came across as having logged in without MFA, and the reason being I didn't have API only selected. So that will keep coming up if you don't set this checkbox. So after I got everything set up and running, I actually did a little bonus project on the side. YubiKey is just one hardware token key that you can purchase. Google does one, and I don't remember, there's another company and I can't remember their name. I actually bought my own YubiKey just to play around with it at home, and I decided to use it here at work also. And I'll show you where that comes in later. But what I was able to do was set it up to where Salesforce will authenticate using that hardware key. And the way you do that is, again, session settings, identity verification. And there's a setting right here at the bottom of the page. And actually, it's not at the bottom of the page when you bring it up, but it is here. But let the users verify their identity with a physical security key. So that has to be turned on. So whether you're using the security key or an authenticator or some other way to do your MFA, here's where you do it. Each user has to set up their own under the settings, advanced user details. So this is an example for the hardware key. All I would do here is click register, and it steps you through plugging in your key, touching it at a certain time, and doing all of that. You can also set up Salesforce Authenticator here, or you can set up something like Google Authenticator or Microsoft Authenticator. So the company standard we have is Microsoft Authenticator. So what changes on logging in? So in this org where I require them to go through SSO, the URL they use is the custom domain, which is for us walsworthpub.my.salesforce.com. When the standard login page comes up, in the lower right-hand corner that says use custom domain, and that's where they can enter that and get redirected to the correct URL. As an admin, if for some reason I need to bypass SSO, I'm allowed to do that. And all you do, you have to be on the custom domain, but then you drop a question mark login at the end. And I'll show you what that changes on the display here in just a moment. And the two error messages are a little bit different. If a user tries to come in through the standard login form, they're going to get a message that their access has been disabled by the administrator. A system admin doesn't get that message. They just get an invalid credentials message. That took me a few minutes to figure out what was going on there too. And finally, I've included a page of resources that you can go read about some of these things. So I'm going to try to do a live demo now just to show you the different login methods and the way they look. So if you give me just a moment. So if we do this. So standard login page. I can't even log in from this one. The way it sits. Give me just a moment. I'm trying to fix my WebEx here. There we go. So in order for a standard user or myself to log in normally, we hit custom domain. Type in Walsworth Pub, which is under my domain, and now we're sitting in Azure SSO. You notice the Microsoft icon came up here, and I just log in normally. And it dumps us in. Perfect. So now I'm logged in. That's the way our users typically go in. They'll either go straight to walsworthpub.lightning.force.com or they'll come in and put in the custom domain. Now the way it changes for me. Now you'll notice one thing. I didn't have to authenticate with a second MFA. The reason being is we are not fully compliant internally. Our Azure SSO policy says I only have to use MFA every 14 days. So that does not comply with Salesforce's policy that comes in on February 1st because they're requiring every single login. So I have passed that message on to my upper management, and it'll be up to them to decide what to do. The reason I close my browser is to try to kick out my single sign-on. So now if I go in, I'm going to go back to here. Oh, sorry. I'm going to go here, and we're going to use that login. All that is a little parameter that's being passed in that tells Salesforce, hey, I may want to go in a different way. So you see the way the screen changed. There's no more custom domain, use custom domain here. And now Azure SSO is available. If I wanted to use single sign-on, I would click on Azure SSO. If I want to go in as myself, in just a moment, I don't even know my password. I use a password manager, so I don't even know what I log in as. So now as an admin, bypassing SSO for whatever reason, I'm set up to first of all use my security key, my UB key. If I wanted to log in using another method that I already had set up, such as Microsoft Authenticator, you could click on use a different verification method and you could move in that way. I'm just going to touch my security key. And now I am back in production. I like the security key myself because it's faster than opening up an Authenticator app on my phone and typing in the number. So it's just handier for me. I know that was very, very fast, but I hope if you have time and want to go back through the slides that you'll be able to implement MFA in your orgs and hopefully skip some of the pain points that I went through. So yes, are there any questions?
Awesome stuff, Todd. I think, one of the things for everybody to keep in mind is MFA plus SSO is so unique to your organization, right? You said it right at the top, and I just want to reinforce that. You're taking a very specific approach with a very specific set of tools, and your organization out there, whoever you are, is going to have, a different set of tools, right? So the types of things that you run into, definitely, stuff that you want to keep in mind. It may or may not apply to your particular SSO and or MFA solution.
I would totally agree with that because, and what Salesforce is trying to do is put out general information for everyone. But because we're using PDFs, I can't turn on high assurance.
Right.
And I don't know if you noticed, but that known issue is not, it was marked no fix. So luckily I found a way to get around it.
Let's talk about, you and I can talk some other time about other ways to create PDFs without Visualforce.
Okay. I'm looking at the chat. MFA with API only users. MFA is not required for API users. They're enforcing it and requiring it only for those that log on to the UI. So there's really no way to generate an MFA or have it entered on an API only user. So they're not requiring it. So that's why I didn't configure that on my API profiles. I have separate profiles for the API users. So that FAQ document for MFA is a living document. It is changing. I actually updated a couple slides this morning before this, just because it changed. So if you're going to go out there and keep revisiting that, because the document is being updated as time goes on. The one thing that did change, and the big one, was they're not requiring it for sandboxes at this time. So they're not going to require MFA for sandboxes on February 1st. It's not to say they never will, but they backed off of that one pretty early.
Does anything reference anything about full copy sandboxes, since that is a full copy of production data?
Right now, they say it's not required for sandboxes. They have not specified.
Okay. Maybe you sprinkled it in here and there, but just having gone through this process, did you have any aha or oh, that's how that worked kind of moments? Just that as an admin, sometimes, a lot of the times, we have opportunities to kind of take a step back, and once we get something to work, or if something doesn't work and you find out why it didn't work or whatever, you kind of go through oh, okay, that makes sense. Did you have any of those moments through this experience?
Well, the one of them was when you click the box to not allow logins through that login.salesforce.com.
Mm-hmm.
It killed my login too.
Yep.
Couldn't get in directly at that point. So kind of the aha moment was when I said, oh, now I can use that question mark login. And that gets me past that. So, and even if the users try to use that, they don't have any, as I said earlier, they don't have any credentials set up in Salesforce. And they are not even able to do a forgot password because none of them have ever set up the security question. So the only way for my users to ever log in directly is for me to send them a password reset.
Right.
So
you had mentioned at the very top mobile.
Yes.
What if anything should be known about mobile with all of this?
In our org, it's working fine. The MFA works fine on mobile, the way we're configured right now. I don't know if I just got lucky on that one or what. Oh, one thing I did do, and there was a bug that was fixed here recently. I don't know if it was in the last release or an interim release, but I had originally configured it so MFA was required through SSO, and I turned it on for Salesforce also. And that's where mobile got dinged because it was asking for the MFA twice, once for SSO and once for Salesforce. I got a message a few days ago that they have fixed that Salesforce will recognize an SSO login and not require MFA at the Salesforce level. I have not enabled that in my environment to test it. I figured we were running okay. I didn't need to stir the pot at this point, but supposedly that's fixed. That's one thing that got me though, was the double requirement for another authentication method.
Gotcha.
I'm looking at the chat. I have not had any issues logging in as another user. I never log in directly. I always go through the user screen within setup and do a login as from there. I don't know, Matt, were you referring to a direct login or coming in through the setup? And I have to do it that way because I don't even want to know my users' passwords.
Going in through setup.
No, he goes through setup. So yeah, it still works in our environment. I did have issues with support. I can't remember. In my production for a while when we were working on another issue. We were having an issue with Einstein activity capture, and they needed to log in as me, and they were having issues. So I don't know. They were going to be working on a fix for their support staff also, and I haven't heard how that's going. But me internally, I can get to my users.
So Matt's question, I mean, it's a really good one because it's one of those, it'd be really easy to overthink, underthink, overappreciate, underappreciate, like something like a simple admin tool, like being able to log in as another user. You're already logged in as the administrator, so technically you should have already passed all the checks to log in as another user, but sometimes Salesforce throws you those curveballs of, yeah, but now you can't do this because of other security measures or whatever. So that really is a good, very good thing to consider. Has this had any impact for tools like Data Loader or Workbench or anything like that, like Workbench, if you're already authenticated in a browser session, you should be good to get in, but like the Apex Data Loader being a local application that you have to re-authenticate into, have there been any impacts for you as an admin for those kinds of tools?
I'm trying to remember because I just had to use Data Loader. I don't think it did.
Gotcha.
I'm trying to remember now. Give me just a second. I'll fire it up and tell you. Because I was trying to remember what I did the other day. I can't remember if it asks for the MFA or not. Oops.
We've got this going in our org, and Workbench is working fine for us.
We do as well at Yellow. We don't currently restrict our users to single sign-on, but generally I try to go in that way. And when you get to the login screen, if you're presented with that, you just use the custom domain, and then you get the same SSO button, whatever you configured, and it's worked fine for us.
Yep, and I can tell you I just tried that. That's correct. When it comes up with the login in Data Loader, I just put in the custom domain and it sends me up through single sign-on. Thank you for your help answering that.
And Maddie threw in a great point about Outlook. Outlook as well asks to verify if you have an integration, if you have a Salesforce integration with Outlook to tag emails to an account.
Same experience there, which brings up just the general point. When you roll this out, if you're going to force your users to go that route, just some simple training or heads up on how to click that little hidden custom domain link down there. It's not very obvious to people, and they instinctively want to type in a username and a password, and they kind of freak out. So if they have a heads up, that's what they're going to do. It's pretty simple.
Right. You're correct there. We still get some calls about that, but we've done that from day one, the day we went live. So probably 95% of our people are used to doing that. So, and we do run Microsoft 365, which is also on single sign-on. And the way we're set up, once you authenticate in one app, you're basically good across the board. as you go from app to app. Anything tied into single sign-on will not require MFA again. Anything else? All right. Well, thank you. I hope that helps. And Dale, I'll get you this file and you'll have it for your deck.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much, Todd. I mean, like I said, it sounds incredibly technical, which it is, but this impacts anybody who has the keys to the setup UI in their org. Period. So very valuable information. Thank you, Todd.
You are welcome.
Rebecca, do you have a winner for us? You're on mute.
I just like to talk on mute. It's the best. All right, everyone can probably see. Let's click and spin.
I love this site. Thank you for sharing. This is amazing.
Jeannie, you are the winner. Make sure I have your email address here.
Send it to you.
Awesome. That would be great. Give me an email or drop it in the chat. Otherwise, I don't know where to send you the gift card, but I will have that over to you in just a minute.
Very cool. What is that? Wheel of Names?
Yeah, it's wheelofnames.com. It's real simple. It's a random name generator thing.
Matt was asking. So I think we've actually used that before, haven't we, Jeff? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. So we still have like 25 minutes till the top of the hour, and I think normally we would try to break into breakout rooms, but there was a question in the chat much earlier that I feel like this requires an all hands on deck kind of thing because it is such a big thing. So let me find it. I am struggling with flows. I've been trolling the web for anything I can get my hands on, and nothing has lit the light bulb for me. Does anyone have any suggestions for a definitive, easily understood guide? Thanks in advance. So just to tee this off before we open it up to the discussion, as it's been, I feel like loosely communicated. I know they've talked about it in the release readiness webinars and everything, but it sounds like the official decision has been made here in the next 2 or 3 years that all declarative automation will be flows. Process builder, no longer supported or going away. Workflows, no longer supported or going away. And Jeff is pumping his fist and clapping his hands, and he and I may need to have a very spirited discussion sometime because I don't know that I fully agree with
Thank
that.
goodness. I'm so sick of having to play guess the automation tool to figure out where the automation is happening. It's crazy. I'm on one place.
Oh, I love you, Jeff.
You can do deletes now. Come on, delete trigger.
No, I get it. And if you're on MVP office hours on Friday, you were probably there for the now deleted part of the recording. Now that I posted it on the rant I went on about all of that. But anyway, so for those who have not heard, Flow will be the declarative automation tool here in a couple of years. So there's going to be a significant ramp up, definitely of onboarding of adopters. Hopefully an onboarding of increased information of how to and best practices and everything. So I just say all of that to tee up this question. So experience from y'all in the community when it comes to learning Flow, implementing Flow, sustaining Flow, etc. I'd say let's just have this be an open convo for the next like 20 minutes or so.
Okay, before anyone else jumps in, I have to share the thing that I always share about Flow, which is my favorite Flow site, which is unofficialsf.com. I'm going to put it in the chat, but I just want to pull it up here real quick. If you navigate to unofficialsf.com, up at the top, there's a big Flow menu item. And if you go to the Flow page, what is that unofficialsf.com? Let's take a step back. It's Salesforce developers, many of whom work at Salesforce, but a lot of them who don't. who are out here really pushing the boundaries of what the platform can do. And they're developing things which often end up being folded into the actual releases and the actual product further on down the road. But they start their life as managed and or unmanaged packages that are available out here for things like flow, next best action, page components. I've downloaded so many flow screen components from here. So if you go to the Flow homepage, there's just a running blog, as you can see, updates very consistently from all sorts of folks doing all sorts of fun things with Flow. But right here in this main section, I want to point out this Learn Flow column. And I clicked on the link called Beginner Tutorials, where they have collected, starting all the way back in 2018, but it gets updated very regularly, all sorts of incredible Flow resources. Obviously, there's the Trailhead stuff, but there are videos and blog posts and all sorts of different sites that are out there that you can access. And the individual people who are publishing as well are great resources. So if you were to go to the Flow page and see Tamar or Ryan or Alex, of course, they almost all of them have YouTube channels where they're publishing a lot of their stuff as well. So I just can't speak highly enough about this site. If you want to learn Flow, this is a great place to go. There is also a Flow wiki out there that they have been building and maintaining for a long, long time. And lots of fun extensions and things once you start getting the hang of Flow and you want to start really making it whiz-bang and exciting. So I'll pop some of these links in the chat, but unofficialsf.com/Flow resources or /Lightning Flow tutorials, great place to get going with your Flow knowledge. And again, because they're not official, they can post about stuff that isn't just Trailhead.
And any links that get shared in the chat, I am putting in the deck that we will share later. So if you miss it here in this chat session, don't worry about it. So with that, because with Flow being, I mean, it is a developer tool for declarative admins, really for everybody, but especially declarative admins. Anybody who is brave enough to unmute and just say, like, here's where I started in my actual journey. Like, the resources that Jeff just talked about are amazing and they are coming straight from the horse's mouth. But in the end, it's still going to be on you to put pen to paper. So anybody's experience is welcome in this conversation, and go.
I've got kind of an interesting story. I actually inherited Jeff Berger's old organization a couple of years ago, and I had never used Flow.
Get your popcorn.
What'd you say?
Get your popcorn ready. This is gonna be a story.
I said sorry.
No, you told me that at the time, I think, and it wasn't as bad as you made it seem. But no, I had never used Flow before, and so I had used Process Builder. But, you know, kind of like you had said, there's stuff everywhere. I think you even said a minute ago, like, where is this automation coming from, right? Is it a workflow rule? Is it how do I find it? And then even sometimes the naming was not helpful because the label of the process builder was different than the actual, like, what your email tells you, like, hey, event management is not working. You're like, I don't have a process builder called event management. Like, this kind of stuff just made that difficult. And so I actually found the Trailhead to be very helpful in this, and my learning style is very much like hands-on learning. So I did some Trailhead, and then I went maybe into an existing flow, or I tried to just do a little project of something that I could get my arms around and just tried. And happy to report here, you know, whatever it is now, a year and a half later, I'm just about to wrap up a project where we have all of our workflow rules gone. We've got all of our process builders gone, and everything is just flow and they're organized. So I get standing ovation. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
That's incredible. I love it. I love that you're ahead of the curve. I love that you're really embracing flow. I am so excited that all those workflow rules are gone. So that's great. And kudos to you. Yeah, that's really awesome. What was the biggest of all of the stuff that you migrated to Flow?
Mhm.
what was the one or two that were the trickiest, or the things
Oh,
that
yeah.
man, this is so easy with workflow rules. Why is it so hard with flow?
Great question. So it was, I don't know if you, well, I'm not sure who built this. We had something built that essentially our team didn't want to use the built-in last activity date field. Of course, we want to have our own field that's different than last activity date. So, and then they also wanted to have a next activity date. And so basically what you had to do was run this, it was a process builder and a flow. I think getting a process builder that called an auto launch flow, some of these kinds of things. And it would like page through all of the activities to find out, like, is this the most recent future activity? Is this the latest past activity? And like evaluate it and figure it out. So I was like, oh, this is going to take forever to fit. You know, you just chip away at it. And then working with the team, I was like, do we think this is used anymore? And, you know, some of this is strategery, but, you know, I think we can cut some of these off. And so we did end up like eliminating some of those fields. And it just, I think, goes to the point of, yes, this was built at one time. Is this useful to the organization now? And this is a good opportunity to reevaluate some of that stuff.
And that's been my biggest thing. So my seat as a consulting partner business analyst. I love Flow, the best of them. I learned Flow with a very hands-on project 7-8 years ago, and I'm glad I did, and I continue to evolve on it. But the biggest thing I've learned as a BA is understanding not only how, but when and why. And so to hear that you had part of your process with that was truly understanding, why did we have this workflow rule? Is it accomplishing anything? What does it do? Is it part of the strategy? Whatever. That is huge. And that's been one of the things that I've kind of been on my soapbox about with is there's probably going to be a mad rush of admins who are just probably going to have a little bit of a freak out moment and say, I have all these workflow rules. Okay, I'm just going to go put them in Flow. Okay, sure, but don't. Really take the time to take a step back and understand what all is my org doing. And again, speaking as a BA, how does it align with my business process? I think what I'm gonna enjoy taking a step back and seeing through all of this is not only seeing more and more flow experts, because you are being more empowered to control where the ball bounces and how and what it accomplishes, but also understanding why. If you spend 5 minutes with me, you know I love Simon Sinek and really getting into that why of the golden circle. You need to understand why we are doing this, because if you try to put everything in automation, you're going to hit limits. You're going to potentially have redundancies. You're going to potentially create gaps that you didn't realize. You're going to create conflicts. And so awesome to hear that it wasn't just let's put it in Flow and move on. You actually took the time to examine it. That's going to be the big piece here in the next few years.
Yeah, there's going to be a tendency for people to want to be like, "Oh, Salesforce, you're making us do this, so like, give us a tool. I want to push a button and have it copy my stuff." And no, don't even put yourself in that situation, right? If you wait and you drag your feet, inevitably you're going to end up in a crunch mode where you are just like, "Fine, I'll just push the button and make it happen," right? We all did it with Lightning app pages and then had terrible Lightning app pages. So don't do it. Do it now, right? Get ahead of the curve. Do what Chris did and what others are doing, and try to migrate now, so that way you don't even give yourself the option to be lazy, because it's not even laziness. It's we don't have enough time in the day, right? And so if you can push this down the list and eventually just let Salesforce solve it for you, you're not really helping yourself, right? There's going to be even more technical debt, and it's going to be more complex technical debt because Flow is just inherently more complex, right? The last thing you need is, you know, a one-to-one for every workflow rule that you've ever created to now have a flow of that. That's not going to make it easier to manage your work, right?
Well, and not only stave off the the extra technical debt and everything, but as Flow is going to continue to get more and more love release by release.
Yeah.
So if you already start putting the correct things into flows, you're in a better position to take advantage of those new toys that come out 3 times a year as well. instead of being multiple releases behind that you can't take advantage of these that maybe you're having to custom build as a workaround versus using out of the box as part of your enhancements.
Yes. There are so many fun things out there on Unofficial SF that let you do stuff that we've all had to build workarounds for, right? Like one of my favorite things is you can build a flow and you can launch the flow from a list view and perform bulk actions via flow against a list. And like, you know, for a long time that was a custom JavaScript button, right? And then it was some Visualforce page button because they took away our JavaScript buttons and blah, 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 right? So, you know, that's like pretty cutting edge. It's sort of new that you can do that, but it's going to be very standard at some point. And so if you can get ahead of that and not go backwards and go, oh, well, I don't know that this is available, so I'm just going to do what I know best, which is build my Visualforce page button or something like that, you're doing the work multiple times, right? And you're not providing the latest and greatest that you could be providing that's going to be future compatible, right? So it's hard to stay on top of all of it, but the automation elements of Salesforce are some of the most valuable. And so anything that you could do to try to be continuously solving business problems and not cleaning up technical debt, you're just providing more value to your organization.
Now, in terms of the actual hands-on of learning flow, besides all the, you know, all the great links that are out there that we're sharing, what should go into the flow? Start with a flow chart, whether it's Lucidchart, if it's Visio, if it's Excel, like you can merge cells and bring in shapes and everything, but actually make a flow chart of what your process is that you're trying to build. I start the process with this, and then there's something happens here, and then I have to make a decision point here, and if yes, then do that. If no, then do that. That is flow. This is a great way to learn how to actually build a flow. They called it flow for a reason. So if you are able, whether you're looking at your existing automation or if you're starting brand new, do this. Get your business process. Don't even think about technical. I mean, if you have to sprinkle in technical, fine. But get your business process on a flow chart first. And then you've already built half of your flow once it's time to get into Salesforce.
Could agree with that more, Dale. You draw everything first. I'm old school. I'm pen and paper. But I got to whiteboard it. I got to draw it. I got to put it in before I begin. Because otherwise, I'm going to run into issues down the road and then have to refactor a bunch of stuff that I've already put in place, right? Further upstream. So definitely think it through.
Yep.
Also, I know I'm guilty of this. For a long time, Salesforce Flow was, you know, free form, and you sort of drag and drop stuff everywhere, and they have the sort of structured flow, the auto layout, and I know I'm very guilty of continuing to pick freeform because that's what I'm used to. But if you're new, especially, the auto layout in Flow is so valuable because I think it does a really nice job of laying things out for you in a way that isn't super complex. Again, apologies to Chris for my Flow page layouts because I'm sure they were wild. But the auto layout stuff is really, really valuable. And anybody who's familiar with Pardot will be real familiar with the Flow because it looks exactly the same. They copied it. So a little pro tip there.
So Jeff, I feel like we've monopolized this conversation.
I know.
Else, like anybody, feel free to jump in. I'm even going to go on mute.
This is Todd. I kind of took Jeff's approach. You know, I think I saw on Unofficial SF there were a couple tools that would convert Process Builder to Flow, and I purposely chose not to do that because I don't want everything. I've gone through 2 process builders, one on account, and I'm working on opportunity now, and I'm staring at it going, what does that do? I go over and I talk to the person who takes the support calls. I said, what does this do? She says, we quit doing that a few months ago. So it's gone. And One thing for those of you that maybe haven't gotten into it are the entry conditions to these flows. I am just loving, because if there's something, if I make a change to data that doesn't require the flow to run, I don't run it. And process builders seem to just run every time. In fact, I was sharing with Dale prior to this meeting, I had a process builder attached to my account that I converted, and because I don't run it every single record save, I've gone from a 5 to 6 second save down to sub-second again, like it should be. So I'm looking forward to the flow, and I hope it doesn't overwhelm a lot of people. I know it can seem enormous when you start out, but it is an awesome tool. And don't let it stress you out and keep you up at night.
One other sort of just like guiding principle to think about, along that same line, Todd, of like, don't be overwhelmed by it. The best thing you can do with flow is create your flows in their smallest consumable chunks, right? Make little componentized widgets that do stuff, right? So simple is good, simple is better. And if you can have a bunch of simple flows that you can then string together in a more complex flow, that's always a win. So what you don't want to do, which I think I was guilty of this, right? You hear, in the community, oh, you don't want all these actions firing against the same object. Let's try to consolidate one process builder, per object, or 2 process builders per object, one for create, one for update, right? And you hear all these best practices. And the danger of that, especially when you get into flow, is you get these flows that are this big, and you have to really squint to like see what's going on. And that's not, if you just pause a second and like take a step back, that's not good architecture, right? That's a house of cards that's going to fall when you change one field or you need to make an update, right? And then you're updating the entire flow every time you need to make a change to a single part of that process. So one of the really powerful things about flow, I think, is the ability to really take a step back, think about how you can take that workflow rule, right? And maybe there is a reason to one-to-one that workflow rule and have a single flow that does a single thing, right? Or a set of field updates or something like that. But now you can reuse that component over and over again as you do different processes. And, they just recently rolled out this thing where you can build different sort of flow list views. And I think they're going to need to even be better about that in the future, providing more metadata for those flows, because it's going to start to become difficult to keep track. And this is why I definitely recommend some sort of tool to help you manage your metadata, because understanding where that auto-launched flow is being used and all the different sort of parent processes is going to become really critical.
So great question from Matt in the chat. How do you sync that with the suggestion of one before save and one after save record triggered flow per object? Working with some that are giant and struggling with how to make it simpler without multiples on the same object. Again, I go back to draw out a process flow, whether it's your whiteboard, whether it's Visio, whether it's whatever, to truly get an understanding of what needs to happen when. Salesforce is always going to say one per object, but we know now, if you give us the ability to do things before and after, which code has always offered you the ability to do, that's going to be part of the process. So if you know what needs to happen before a record commit versus after a record commit, because you have drawn it out as part of your process, you're halfway there already. It's not going to be easy and it's not going to be quick, but if you afford yourself the time to really map out what is supposed to happen when, from a business process standpoint, the technology follows almost immediately.
And I totally agree, Dale. And I would say Todd's entry conditions help, right? Because in your ideal state, yes, only one before and one after is firing in a given transaction, right? But it might be selecting from a list of 20 befores, right? But only the one fires because that's the particular step in the process that you're meeting the criteria for right in this moment, right? So maybe, again, taking even a step further back from the individual process you're trying to solve for, if you think about something like an opportunity, right? Step back, draw out the entire opportunity process end to end, right? And as you draw out that process, you'll have little moments in your process where you go, okay, at step 2, you know, I do this little sub process, right? And this little sub process happens and it's got these 4 steps and blah, blah, blah. Well, you create sort of a parent flow that represents that step in the process, right? And then you have the subflows that represent the individual components or elements within that step. And you're only still going to have one thing happen, right? The one thing that's happening is that stage changed from A to B, and so you're going to fire the B flow. And then you're going to have decision trees within there to decide what actually happens. But you're not firing the A stage and the B stage and the C stage and the D stage flows all at once, right? So it's just a refactoring in your head of what one trigger means, right? You want it so that one trigger fires. That doesn't necessarily mean that you only have one trigger in your org.
What are the, put it another way, what are the truly separate and distinct indicators per object? You just touched on it with stage. I put in the chat here, it might be a record type. Like you can't, something, there is no ambiguity when it comes to a record type of a record. Before or after, when it, like if it's supposed to happen before or after the record saving, there's no ambiguity about that. Like make sure you have your explicitly defined criteria, and that will help sort things out.
Mm-hmm.
Something can't be both blue and red as primary colors. You can't have it like orange, it could be red or yellow. Purple, it could be red or blue. But blue is blue, red is red, yellow is yellow. Think of it that way down to, again, the smallest possible chunk. What's the most powerful chunk? What's the truly separate and distinct chunk?
And having a methodology that's consistent is really important too, right? So like, if you're gonna decide, you know what, my like primary indicator is stage, yeah, and then within each stage, I'm gonna say for record type A do this, for record type B do this, right? But you might decide for your org that record type is more important, and so you might say, well, when a record of this record type gets updated, then do these things, right? But you'll want to take a consistent approach. Maybe for a given object, right? And maybe for something like opportunity stage makes sense, but maybe your account stuff is more record type oriented. What I think where you get into trouble is mixing those two things, right? So, well, I've got this thing that says when a record type X gets updated for opportunity, then do this, right? But then I've got this other thing over here that says when an opportunity stage moves to ABC, do this thing. Well, it's possible those two things could happen at the same time and they might conflict.
Yep. That's why draw it out. Make sure you understand, get to as explicit of requirements, criteria, actions, etc. as possible so that you can work your way out of the ambiguity, and that definitely makes for cleaner. All right, we are at the top of the hour, so I do need to go ahead and shut this one down. Thank you, Todd, so much. And again, we're gonna have you on the hook here sometime in the future of your flow migrations, because again, going from 5 to 6 seconds down to less than 1, you're doing something super duper right. Or Chris, with your business process to technical process to consolidate. This is going to be a hot topic the next few years. So anyway, thank you, Todd. Rebecca, I know I had to jump off. Thank you to Rebecca and Capstorm. Thank you, everybody. We hope you're doing well. We'll have the link for the next meeting out sometime this week, maybe even today, but it will be Tuesday, December 7th. And again, if anybody's interested in being the second presenter on that one, we would love to have you. When I share out the deck, the link to the speaker interest form will be in there as well, or you can go to our group on the Success community and click on it there. Jeff, any final words?
Be well, be safe.
Be well and be safe. I love it. Thanks, everybody, and take care.
Bye.
See ya.